I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the new stuff that Razer's got coming out. Just kind of get your opinion on it and its effects on the esports community. Uh,
Okay.
Pretty specifically, the OSVR, the virtual reality headset that's on the website. Do you think that's going to have any kind of application as far as esports goes?
Well, OSVR is a project that Razer is a major partner in, and you could call them one of the founders. However, as a Razer employee, I can't speak for OSVR's intention.
Oh, true. Okay.
However, as a esports contributor, whether that's as a consumer or just someone who's involved in the industry, my own personal forecast for the ways that OSVR can be involved eventually is actually not through having five players sitting down playing a game competitively wearing virtual reality headsets, but I'm actually interested to see if something will adapt sooner. As a League of Legends World Championships is going on, and you could purchase the virtual ticket, and what that means is you're wearing your headset while the finals is going on, and you feel like you're sitting right there in whatever stadium it's going on in. And
Oh,
you have
so more of like a for the people spectating to be closer to the action, right?
yeah. Or you're spectating and you're actually like on the ground inside the rift or something. I could see something
That
like
would be
that.
insane. Every time I think about virtual reality, I always think about those movies like The Gamer or something, or the old Hackers movie back in the day where they wear virtual reality and we're physically trying to like move around in the games and stuff. And it's a pretty exciting time to be involved in something like that. It's really cool that Razer's kind of helping push that envelope a little bit. Um,
Definitely.
so speaking of, you said you're with marketing and working with the players and everything. Do you guys kind of have players on deals for just Razer equipment? Is that a typical sponsor thing, or is the sponsorships more involved with just getting kind of the Razer brand out there in front of people?
Sponsorships in esports definitely take a lot of different forms. Um, Razer being a endemic peripheral sponsor in the space, typically our sponsorships revolve around our equipment. We like to work with players who want to use our equipment while competing, and for us, that's validation that we can use to serve marketing purposes. Advertising at large. Um, I can't really speak to the specifics of our contracts. However, I can say that our sponsorships typically include whether it's um, all of the gear that somebody would need to compete that we create, and in some cases they also involve logistics support, whether that's through monetization, um, commission on sales, travel support, things like that.
Very cool. So kind of off the cuff, when a player decides to switch his mouse or his keyboard, do you kind of take the martyr approach, like, oh man, I should have done better, or is it kind of like the scoring lover, like you'll be back?
Um, well, I don't know. I guess it depends if they're. Well, I mean, it's all a business, right? If somebody's sponsor our Razer and they're using Razer peripherals, well, then they're doing their job. But
Right.
let's say they move on and get another sponsor, I can't really can't really get mad at anyone for doing their job.
Okay, good enough. Um,
We have had a lot of cases though where people do move on, and they're working with a different company, but they're coming back to us and they're like, "Oh man, you know how bad I feel. Like I would have just done better if I still was using, the mouse I used with you guys for 3 years. It sucks switching." We hear things like that all the time, and I'm sure it happens vice versa too.
oh, that's got to be a little bit of reformation. Just hearing, man, I probably could have won that major if I hadn't switched companies.
Yeah.
Um, so as do you guys like? Do you personally, or do you have any contact with people that field kind of the sponsorship requests? And like, how many of those do you guys get on a routine basis? Just people emailing you like, "Please sponsor my esports team," or
Uh, we average around maybe a few hundred a week.
a few hundred a
People
week. Actually,
requesting.
that's a little bit
Yeah.
lower than I thought it was going to be. Actually,
Um, yeah, it's. I mean, the number is quite large. They're really hard to field. It takes me personally days, weeks, and months to get through some. Thankfully, being an esports professional, I know who's who in the different game genres. I know what events are going on, what teams are really like, getting noticed. So I'm able to kind of first glance prioritize emails as they come in, or the request. So we get emails and we also get submissions through an automated system. Combined, I'm not even sure what the number averages out to, but um, we get quite a bit to answer your question.
You're actually handling those sponsorship requests directly?
Myself and the rest of global esports at Razer.
Okay, sweet. I didn't know if that would have filtered down or not to somebody else. Can you share like maybe one of the craziest ones you've ever gotten off the top of your head? Anything outlandish?
Um, no one specifically, that wouldn't really be fair to anyone.
Right.
But I can tell you that quite often people misspell Razer. So within the first line, typically if I see Razer misspelled, I might move on quickly. Or we get a lot of people that they submit this long email about what they would like to do, what they would like to receive. But oftentimes when you read these messages or requests, I get a sense that people are asking us to sponsor potential. And the problem is that it's really hard to dedicate resources, whether that's equipment or money, to something that doesn't exist. I much prefer to sponsor things that exist and are tangible and have proven value. But it's not that I'm calling those people out. It's a common mistake or it's a common perception of the way things should be done. But that's why, we go the lengths to provide things like our sponsor proposal guide on our website so that people have an idea of what we're already looking for before they go and make the request to us.
That's great, and we'll include a link to the guide there in the show notes when the show runs. Have you guys had any discussion, or is there anything kind of running around about maybe getting an official teamraiser out, or are you guys doing okay just sponsoring the players that are already on teams?
Well, our fighting game team, which is made up of some of the best individuals in their respective fighting games in the world, is Team Razor, and that's the flag that they wear when they're out competing around the world. But when it comes to some of the other esports and the team titles and something like a fully stood up Team Razor, while it's definitely been passed around as an idea, it's just logistically not in the cards right now. There's also a number of conflicts of interest that might be caused from something like that, and we'd really have to sit down and plan it out well.
Gotcha. What's your opinion of fighting games as far as kind of struggling in popularity versus something like Counter-Strike or Dota or League of Legends? Do you think there's any one reason or something kind of holding them back from hitting that same critical mass that the other games are?
I don't think that their communities and as far as players who are willing to go and compete in those games are hurting as bad as just maybe the viewership is. And the viewership on things like a stream are what essentially give people, most people, like an idea of how healthy the community or esport is, which is kind of skewed. But I think that, on one hand, people are just more entertained by some of the team dynamics and the team esports. And the games are played by more people because more people are always going to play team games because a lot of the consumers out there gaming content, they don't like one-on-one games as well much because they don't like losing and then knowing that they're responsible for the loss. But then also prize pools play into how many people watch an event. Some people will argue that the FGC has a lot of work to do in terms of making their content more PC because of the way people act and interact on those streams. But I don't think that fighting games are unhealthy, and I don't think that reaching the critical mass, like you mentioned, is that much farther off either. I just think that I already think some of the best people for the job are behind the scenes working on that right now.
Yes, we were actually talking about Big House 5, which is the Big Smash tournament up in Michigan, on the last show, and we're talking about how different that stream is compared to every other game you'll see out there, like that stream. And we were actually commenting on how we hope it didn't change because the community that was there at Big House and in the fighting games were just, you could tell they all just loved the game and loved each other and were just having fun. And it was an interesting experience. It was much different than what you see everywhere else. So I kind of hope that sticks around and the fighting games take a bit bigger role in esports in general.
Yeah, I can agree more. The Big House 5 had was a very good piece of content. That community has thrived since early 2014. People like Twitch.tv began to support the community quite a bit. And, some of the primary leaders in that community are all very level-headed people who I think have sometime in the last 2 years also determined, what they think they need to contribute to help make everything more successful overall. And some of their gains in terms of viewership, popularity, and community strength are due to those people kind of, putting that time in. And I mean, look at VGBC and Gimmer and the excellent stream he puts on. If he wasn't driving around all over the country or flying around, kind of setting the standard for what a stream for, Smash, which used to be all kinds of ragtag events, then would we be as far as they are now? Or I don't think so. If Twitch didn't go and hire some major community leaders in Smash and then, allow them to essentially travel around the country and help set standards of this number of Smash events, then I don't think the community would be as well off as it is right now either. It's just, everything's a process.
That's a great point. You mentioned a few minutes ago or a couple seconds ago about FGC needing to do some work just to kind of connect that back to some of the other games. Do you personally have kind of an opinion on some of the tournaments that have been like kind of missing out on payouts and kind of setting these sponsors up for a PR nightmare, essentially trying to recover from these tournament organizers not paying out to the players or anything?
Well, whenever I see, some of this drama in the esports media or these events that aren't paying out or players that are mistreated at an event, I just kind of hope that, well, maybe this is one of the last times this will occur, because I think there's enough good people trying to do good work in the space right now that are going to eventually, eat up the slots with regards to when esports events could be occur, and it'll just kind of phase out the rest of the things. But I do think that something like the player union that was proposed a week or two ago by a lot of the major Counter-Strike team owners is I think it's, while I don't necessarily agree with calling it a union because that's an actual legal term, I think that some evidence of people wanting collective bargaining in the space is good. It's a good sign, whether it's going to be translated correctly in the short term versus long term, I'm not certain, but it's a good sign that there's people willing to step up and make sure that standards are set or demand for standards in general.
Oh, no, I completely agree on the CBA stuff. I mean, that's kind of we're definitely going to need to go down that road pretty quickly with how much money's being injected into the industry, especially after a couple teams have announced their huge investments in the last couple days.
Yeah.
So you've got experience on both sides of the rope, basically, between a business sponsorship kind of organizing side and being a player, even if it was, like you said, way back when or anything. Which side did you kind of prefer to be on? I mean, do you have a preference one way or the other?
I think that I miss being a team manager during the wins and getting to be a part of that. You win an event, one of your players wins an event, and just that feeling. But in general, I like that in my current role, I can affect esports at large. And, one of my personal goals is just to kind of improve this space as best as I can. I mean, in 2014, I was still working full-time for the government, and I finally kind of, told myself, okay, I think I trust the esports ecosystem enough that I'm going to go and I'm going to find a job full-time in esports. And I was lucky enough to know people and have a good enough reputation to get this job that I have now. But it doesn't just stop at getting a job in esports for me. I want to get some competition between gamers. Every day at lunch, we all pretty much eat lunch together, and then we spend the rest of our lunch break gaming.
Oh,
Work
that's
ends
great.
around 5, 6 o'clock, and some people are jumping back into games. And then, based on whatever people determine as their own personal schedule and what's needed to complete their work for the day, people are gaming all throughout the day.
That sounds like a great work environment. It's just sounds like fun.
Oh, it definitely is. You know what, like gaming like we do, which to just some people may sound like, wow, do you guys do any work? But to us, it's a core part of our jobs. I mean, if we weren't in touch with the culture, if we weren't in, deeply invested in the games ourselves, then how would we know how to communicate with our consumer base, or how would we know what our consumer base cares about?
Oh, and that's a great point. I mean, that discussion in general with esports comes up a lot, that the distinction between gaming being a hobby or something for a career. So that's great that Razer's been able to provide that kind of environment for people that love to do it. So 5 years down the line, think you'll still be at Razer, still gaming every lunch break, and where do you think Razer's going to take esports? I mean,
I think for the foreseeable future, as long as esports is a thing, Razer's going to be involved. I mean, Razer's been involved since the very beginning. Razer was founded on the idea that there are gamers out there who just want to be more competitive than other gamers. So they're going to seek that tactical advantage, and that's when, the Razer Boom Sling mouse was created. But for those reasons, and that's why Razer will always be involved in esports, no matter what form it takes. Myself personally, I don't know what I'll be doing at Razer, but I hope to be involved in esports, and I hope to be at Razer, and hopefully, I've seen some kind of promotions. But I'll tell you one thing I know for sure: I'll definitely be gaming.
All right, last question. If you had to pick one Razer accessory, one peripheral that you that you could keep and get rid of all the rest, which one is it?
Oh, it's too hard. It's too hard. Because, before I worked at Razer, I was already a Razer user. I had the keyboard, the mouse at home, mouse pad. But, man, there's just so many good ones. Like, my blade is amazing.
Oh, yeah, I noticed in the email signature, sent from my Razer blade. Yeah.
Hey, I just want people to know. That's a tough question. I don't think I can answer it, unfortunately.
Yeah, fair enough, Justin. So, everyone, that was Justin Dellario. You can find links to, I'll put a link to his Twitter as well as the sponsorship guide in the show notes. Justin, thank you for coming on the show. And we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Thank you.